Karen says it actually mapped.
Oh, it does. It does matter.
We're doing
What?
We're starting.
Whether that's your, whether you know what I'm
Okay.
Let me show my phone on the side.
You guys ready? You ready? Is that right? Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Warren City School District Board of Education regular meeting. Today is Tuesday, June 11, 2024, and the time is 6:01 p.m. We are in the Administration Building in the Harriet T. Upton Room with live stream available at warrencityschools.org. This meeting is a meeting of the Warren City Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is a time for public participating during the meeting as indicated in agenda items number 11A and 11B. At this time, I will call the meeting to order, and if everyone would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and if we could please call the roll.
Dr. O's?
Here.
Mr. Flanagan?
Here.
Mrs. Patterson?
Here.
Mr. Walker? And Mrs. Lamperos?
Here. There's no need to move into executive session at this time, so we'll move on to agenda item 4, which is communications. Mr. Shiro.
Thank you, Mrs. Lamperos. I have 4 communications for this evening. Congratulations to our food service department. This year marks our 25th year of our summer feeding program. You know, we constantly have a great amount of students being fed throughout the district. I believe, Mr. Lacey, you're here in the back, correct me if I'm wrong, we're averaging about 1,300 to 1,400 students a day at this time. And that's happening within our school buildings, on our sites, as well as at remote locations throughout the Warren community and surrounding. So 25 years, and it's just gotten better and better over the years. This is the same group of dedicated individuals who fed over 1 million meals during the pandemic and have definitely done an excellent job. We continuously challenge them to do better in the food service operations, and I think that that's going to continue to move forward over the years. So if you see a food service worker in and around and about, please congratulate them for the good work that they're doing. Communicated to the board in my weekly update most recently that our summer programs are up and running. A number of our programs started this past Monday, the 3rd, not yesterday, but a week ago, with our elementary programs. Continuing on with more programs this week. Inspiring Minds starts, I believe, on the 24th. And then we have additional programs that are going to take place at the end of July and into August. One such program is our Jump Start into Kindergarten program, and that's going to start on July 22nd. So far, we're blessed to have 259 students already registered for our Jump Start into Kindergarten program, and we're looking forward to seeing those youngsters riding the bus with them on their first experience. And Kelly Hutchison, our preschool coordinator, wanted me to also communicate with the board this evening that along with the Jump Start program, she's already identified the kindergarten family days. So I will communicate that, and then we can also share that if anyone would like to join that program. This will be coming out shortly from my office. And last, but certainly not least, but definitely of grave importance, is at the end of May, our academic preview went out. Wendy and Regina in the back there, an academic preview to our staff. I have asked specifically that we put some information out and have a session offered in June and offered in August. Nothing that's too heavy lifting, but also to talk about where we plan on going for next year. This was based upon the data that came out from our instructional rounds from our colleagues from across the state. And regular and classroom instruction is surely an area, as well as alignment to the content and to the depth of the standard. All those are common areas of focus. This will include those areas in these sessions. One will take place on June 18th in the morning, and one will take place on August 1st in the afternoon. Those educators that want to join in, RSVP to Lori in the Office of Curriculum and Instruction to reserve your spot. And as a note, on the board agenda this evening is an amendment to the school calendar for next year that I'm requesting the board to add an additional waiver day in October. Given the demands of what we need to get done academically in this district, we are looking to provide not only a waiver day in September and November, but also putting one additional in October. There's a lot of demands coming down. In fact, the state has communicated when it comes to the training that they're mandating by law, that is not to take place during instructional time. So educators that don't meet those requirements have to do it on their own time. They're required to and do receive stipend to do so. Just this time alone, the third waiver day is stuff that we need to get done. So with that, I request that you would approve my resolution we put together for an amendment to the academic schedule. That concludes my communications for this evening.
Thank you. I would like to entertain a motion for the adoption of the agenda.
So moved.
Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Dr. Alls?
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos?
Yes, and the motion carries. Agenda item number 6, the treasurer's report. Mrs. Scortino?
Just wanted to let you know, right now, we're working on our fiscal year-end closing, finalizing our 2024 budget appropriations, which will be presented to you at June 28th board meeting, along with the temporary appropriations for fiscal year 25. And we're doing this with a little less processing time based upon how the year-end falls, the 28th being a Friday. So, but our office is doing a great job and got a lot of cooperation from administrative staff to make it happen. So
Thank you.
I'll be updating you on the final numbers on June 28th.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Alls, you said you will not be present at that particular meeting. Is everybody else available on that day?
Yes.
That everything else will be to a quorum? Okay, thank you. All right, was that it? Anything else?
Yes, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Agenda item number 7, the superintendent's report. Mr. Shiro, you're up again.
Well, probably the best part of this meeting, not that I have low expectations for everything else for the rest of the evening, but I think that the best part of this meeting is recognition of a couple students that have really exceeded, and I'd like to turn the floor over to Mr. Nicholson and Coach Charles Penny. Gentlemen.
Had an opportunity to go down to Dayton a couple weeks ago for the state track and field meet. We had a couple of young students of ours compete and did very well. I don't get to spend a whole lot of time with the track team. I don't get to know the kids very well.
Coach Penny doesn't let us anywhere near them.
He wants to coach and I talk too much. But sat with these guys at district, sat with them at regionals, bought you a Kona ice, right? Got to know that pina colada is his flavor. And watch this young lady get out of the starting blocks and tear the districts up. And got to sit in the stands with them and get to know them. And it's one of the things I truly enjoy as being the athletic director is getting to know them on a personal level. These are two quality young woman and young man, quality kids. Do it in class. They get it done in the classroom. Their manners were great. We went out and ate that Friday night and found out that Najee, big fan of roast beef. It was awesome. Nice breaking bread with them, laughing and getting to see another side of them. So we're here to recognize them tonight. And Coach Charles Penny, your staff did a great job this year. Really good with the kids. We didn't have a lot of people down there, but we were loud cheering for our kids, and it was a great weekend. So this time I'd like to present Charles Penny.
So first off, from the Warren G. Harding track team, we want to thank the Board of Education, Superintendent, Treasurer, and all of our high school administration for putting up with what we do in track. I know we're a unique sport where traditionally the standard is to the state, and we're very happy with these young individuals. We kept what's under the cover, the streak alive, 20 consecutive years of taking an athlete to the Division I state championship.
Yes.
So first of all, congratulations. I mean, with that being said, though, I am full aware that I am very difficult to deal with. But my gratitude to everybody in this room is because of these two young people. I mean, what we do as a staff all goes down to our athletes, and the expectations we have are very, very high within our program. And as long as I'm the head coach, it'll remain that way. And these young people epitomize what we do in our program. And with that being said, I want to first recognize Jameer Hans, who's come on up here, Jameer. So first of all, Jameer needs some recognition because not only she's one of the most accomplished hurlers, boy or girl, we've had come through our program. Her junior year, she qualified for the state meet, indoor and outdoor, and was first team academic of Ohio. She not only came back this year, qualified for the indoor state meet, became all-state in the indoor state meet in the 60-meter hurdles, qualified again in the 100-meter hurdles, just had a ticking track, and the thing is, what we always said is, next race up, and we've talked a lot about, everything happens for a reason, and the beauty about track is, you can't blame no one. It's just you and your gun. And if something happens, how do you respond to that? There's two ways you can respond, either positively or negatively. And Jameer, through her whole career, has always done the positive way. This is why she's going to continue her track career at Baldwin Wallace University. And she's a two-time defending district champion, county champion. The accolades can go on, but most importantly, she's a two-time first team All-State, All-Ohio athlete. So, anything good to say, Jameer? Besides probably thank you?
Thank you for being my coach.
I told that. Just respect you. Very good. All right. Thank you very much. Next young athlete, I'm going to talk about. Yes, you may. Absolutely. So, history is a big thing with me. I love the history of track and field within the city of Warren. It's our oldest sport. It dates back to 1919. It dates back to when Warren City Schools on Monroe Street, back to Warren Central High. I believe that was the correct name, but we never had an athlete qualify in 2 field events and make all-state in both events in the field since 1919, and I changed it this year.
Wow.
This young man I'm going to call up here in a moment made history. Dating
Oh.
back over 100 years of Warren track.
Chills.
This young man, when I do, I recruit. I do. I'll say that word in the camera. I recruit our kids.
Thank you.
I recruit Warren kids. I think we're the best
Thank
kids around. I think when our kids are put in the right situations, they can succeed. This young man right here, I recruited him out of our classroom. He was a football player first. And now he's going to go to school, play football. He's a basketball player second. And I said, Najee, I could really hope you could help me out on track. I convinced him, recruited him. He's one of our kids to come out for the track team. And he did. And not only did he come out, but he made history.
Wow.
So Najee Jones going up.
Good job, Najee.
Najee not only he placed 8th in the long jump, he placed 7th in the high jump, first team All-State in both events. He'll be going to Sioux Erie University, right? Sioux Erie to play football on a football scholarship. And while he was out this week, he was at the All-Star game for the Lee Marvin Classic and missed Jack Marvin. I'm sorry, thank you. Lee Marvin. She'll appreciate me saying that. But this is Jack Marvin Classic, and Najee was presented an award that same night from the Mahoning Valley Track Officials Association, which means a lot because officials they don't like. So it means a lot. Get this. So Najee was the Trumbull County Senior Male Track Athlete of the Year. So on behalf of myself, obviously these two individuals, and and the Warren Garden Track program. We want to thank you all for everything you do for us, because without all of you all, we couldn't have happened. And Majid, would you like, I know you want to say
Yeah.
you are Damage, right?
No arguments.
No argument. Should I say no argument?
Thank all the teachers, thank Coach Penny, thank you for listening, thank my mom.
Very nice.
Yay.
Very good, thank you.
Yay.
Yes, wonderful.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Nickerson, Coach Penny, and to our student athletes for a
Yes.
job well done. Truly appreciate, like I said, I believe this is going to be the best part of this evening. However, not that I have little faith in Akron Children's Hospital and Mary and their report, because every year it's great information for us. I'd like to turn it over to our partners at Akron Children's Hospital for
Thanks,
a
Coach.
report to the board to cover the work that's happened over the last year.
I go first? Sure. Okay. So, hi everyone. Hello, board. Thanks for
Hello.
having us. I came old school with handouts.
We love handouts.
All right. So, my name is Mary Schaas. I am the nurse manager of school health, the provider of your nursing services.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I'm going to start with a little improvement that I would like to introduce, thanks to Mr. Shiro. And then we're going to go on the good stuff of what we've done so far this year.
Okay.
So you have a documentation system that is built on academics. Do you want one? You've seen it. You want it?
Sure, unless you need it.
You need it. Yep. You have a documentation system that is built on academics. We as nurses have challenges in documenting in your documentation system. So in order to come back and really report how we've impacted the student outcomes, it's really challenging to be able to pull those reports out of the academic system because there's not a big nursing component. What we would like to do as partners is change that. Number one, we want to make greater impacts in our students, not only in health-wise, but then health promotes academics. You need a healthy child in that seat ready to learn to be able to learn. So what we would like to do, and I had the pleasure of presenting this to Mr. Shiro and Mr. Capper, related to changing our documentation system to a nursing documentation. It would sit on top of your academic system that you have in place, but it would allow our nurses to really coordinate much more care, to really look at how many minutes those kids are missing their seat time in the clinic. Because we know our clinic is a safe zone, which we want it to be, but sometimes that safe zone needs to go back to the classroom so they can learn English and math and science. So we would love the opportunity to partner with our current partner, School Care, and build that. So what you have in front of you is the presentation from School Care that Mr. Shiro and Mr. Capper were able to sit in and then bring me to you guys to talk about. So School Care is a nursing-driven documentation system. So if we have that sitting on top of your current system as those kiddos come in, either to register in preschool and kindergarten, your system will feed right into School Care. School Care then takes that health component. It doesn't take the academics, that stays in your system. But it takes that health component and then enables us to really look at that health component and really do a deeper dive in these kids and really produce the outcomes that we need to be successful. Okay? The best part about it, it's free. Now, I know I got the look from my gentleman right there in blue. Nothing in this world is for free. So it is free for the schools. And what they're doing is they're partnering with our Medicaid reimbursement facilities. So CareSource, Buckeye, Molina, all of those. Because what's happening in our world of healthcare is our Medicaid population is falling away, that they lose track of where they are. Well, we know where they are. They're in school 7 hours a day. They are losing track of making sure our kids have the well visits they need, the immunizations they need, their management of their chronic diseases that they need to be successful. So they can't help them bridge those gaps to barriers that they have in accessing their care because they can't find where they are, or because the families are not accessing the system. They don't have those access, they have those barriers instead. So what they do is they partner with then School Care, and provide a funding on the backside to school care to enable schools to use this for free. And in return, a parent can have an opt-in that then can connect them to a case manager for the people that have their insurance. So Buckeye, CareSource, any of those insurances, but the parents totally 100% opt in. So if a parent doesn't want to do it, they don't check the box. A parent can opt in that then can provide information to then help them bridge the gaps in the care. This is huge for our population as people who try not to stay out of ER, because if you go to ER, unfortunately that drives up the cost for everyone. So not only are you helping your kids, but you're helping your community reduce the cost of healthcare by then connecting those kids and being able to see what's going on in school. Are they taking their inhaler more than they should? Are they coming down and being sent home because of difficulty breathing when they could take an inhaler that keeps them there? So this provides a huge care coordination for them to hopefully improve their successful outcomes in health, which then affect academics, okay? Regardless if nobody in Warren opts in, this product is still huge for nursing and can still come to Warren as part of nursing. It feeds the state registry for immunizations right into the system, so Miss Janine and her team do not have to spend time going from one system, which is called Impact Syst, which is the state registry for immunizations, to them putting them into Warren's system to make sure they're compliant. Warren does an excellent job making sure these kids are getting their immunizations, so this will reduce the time Janine has to spend in getting it, because the data will dump automatically rather than her having to log in the system and then putting them in the Warren system. Let alone all of the outcomes that we can pull and present back to the board monthly. Whenever you want the feel-good stories of us making a difference, we're glad to come. We can pull those so much easier than having the academic world with a small nursing portion. Okay, so school care does and has presented Mr. Shiro with a contract. You guys have a copy of the contract. It talks about being HIPAA, which is the privacy for medical aspects, as well as FERPA, the school privacy, being both HIPAA and FERPA compliant. They do not sell any information. So that's a big piece. I want to say it again. They do not sell any information. Anytime you hear of a third party, you think, what are you selling? Are you selling my phone number? What are you selling to profit on your side? They're not selling anything. They really are impactful in making sure that we have successful kids. Ohio is looking at an overall EMR, or electronic medical record, for schools, and school care is one of those. On the last slide, you'll have a picture of all of the districts that they are accompanying right now. There's 43 in Ohio. Yesterday they told me they had 3,300 school districts throughout Ohio, Indiana, and several other states in the United States. So they are one of the more prominent ones. You'll see some other ones like SNAP and things like that coming out of the woodwork, but they are very prominent with where they are. Currently, I have 3 districts that have onboarded, Bristol Local School District, Crestview Local School District, and East Palestine Local School District, with then Warren hopefully being number 4. And then Akron Public being my number 5.
Any questions? I know Mr. Capers, do you have any comments?
Mr. Dante, yep.
I could say from, for the board's perspective, we discussed this with Attorney Spencer as far as going through the program, and she was in support of us without any concerns, as far as, student information.
Yeah. My concern was just about the FERPA and the HIPAA requirement, but you addressed that, and I do love that. And I like how it's taking, honestly, even our feeding program, because the kids need to be fed to be able to be taught and make them healthy. So I like how it's taking that to the next step. I love the idea of implementation of this.
I just think any comment I would have about it would be answered or highlighted in the presentation to follow. I think whatever we can do to best support the health needs of our students is well important.
Yeah.
And I like the alignment, for years as a principal and being within the district, the not so much of an alignment between pediatricians' offices and uploading of information, especially around immunization time and, forget about a pandemic, but just everyday healthcare needs of children. It's great to have a more centralized, more modernized system. Again, the educational system that we use wasn't meant for healthcare. It has a component to it, but that's really not the primary need. So I think this really supports the nursing services and the vision that we have for children in the city of Warren.
It does, and unfortunately, it takes more than an army nowadays for our kids. There's so many barriers, so many gaps that they're facing every day. We're happy that they're there because of all the traumas that they can have at home. It takes a huge army. So if we can work smarter, that will then allow us more time to make greater impact on our students, which then will show the outcomes. And I really do feel that this system will be able to show those even more than what Allison and Janine are going to present. We do old-fashioned hashtags on pen and paper, which if anyone's in the IT world, you're like, oh my gosh, that's barbaric, you know, that we can, you know, quickly pull a report. Mr. Shiro or Mr. Capper comes to me and says, I need a report on, you know, this, it's there in 2 minutes versus going to tally marks and counting. So it would be much better and be able to report back even more efficiently and then see even further gaps in where our kids need us.
And so when you talk about tally marks, are you talking about when a child comes into the nursing station, you document why they are there?
Yes. So we keep statistics every week. So what Janine and Allison are going to present are some of those statistics. So it's on an old-fashioned piece of paper, and it's a tally mark, and then they enter it in the computer on Mondays, versus we could do it, you come to us at 2:59 today, I can pull you exactly what happened today, versus going back into my tally marks or individual students or things like that. So yes, much more efficient.
And if I remember correctly, because it was a few months ago since we had our presentation, this also has a parent component where they can be notified as well of the visit, et cetera. So the idea of my child was in the clinic and I had no idea doesn't have to be.
Okay.
It also provides a privacy, not to say our teachers don't know, but sometimes they don't need to know. And it does provide a layer of privacy for kids because some kids have some really heavy things going on that needs to be, you know, dealt with individually. We don't need drama happening because of whatever they're going through. So it does provide a layer of privacy that you can even make nursing notes private that can be seen through the nurses. So it really increases confidentiality with the student care as well. And as Mr. Shiro mentioned, it has the component to simply hit a button that mom gets an email right away knowing the care, and that's our #1 complaint. You didn't call me and I didn't know. Well, yes, we did. We called you 5 times and we couldn't leave a voice message, or the voicemail wasn't set up. That's my infamous one. The voicemail was not set up or it's full. Yes, exactly. We tried, or things like that. So this can create improve the satisfaction with our families. One piece we're talking about, we know everyone texts now, to building that into the system because school care will take what we want and build it how we want. So if we find Warren does better with text messaging, we're going to build it that the parents get the text message instead in that communication. Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Because they may not all have emails, but they all have phones.
Yes.
Amen. Yes. So as you look through this, if you have any questions, just let Mr. Shiro know. We wouldn't look to implement until the beginning of next year. So working with his IT, late July would be what we would be doing. So if you have any questions, that's why I wanted to give you guys the paper to kind of look through. Let Mr. Shiro know, and he knows how to get a hold of me. So.
Okay, perfect.
That's correct.
Yes, correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For the second part of our presentation,
I just
Janine
want to
Allison.
take a minute to thank everybody for their support and also acknowledge some very prestigious awards that people in our audience have received. Mr. Shiro, will you please stand? I know they know, but I also have Michelle Wilmoth, the Director of School Health Services, just received a very prestigious award. Allison Lance with School Health also received a very prestigious award, and Mary Schatz just received a very prestigious award. So Allison and Michelle, sorry, I get so nervous up here. I'm bringing down my second. Okay, so Allison and Miss Michelle, they received what's called the Grit Award. And this award was awarded through the Ohio School-Based Health Alliance, who I don't know if you remember, but they came into our district because we were so successful. They came into our district and they awarded, please stand up, Miss Michelle, she got the Grit Award, which stands for, she got the Administrator of the Year, which for the Grit Award, and it is The GRIT stands for genuine, resilient, innovative, and tenacious. Allison also received a GRIT award through the same association for Provider of the Year. And Mary Schatz, my nurse manager, she received Administrator of the Year through the Ohio Association of School Nurses. And then Mr. Shiro with his
He's the the 2024 Martha
Yes.
Holden Jennings
So
Superintendent
I feel very blessed
of the Year
that
of
I have
Ohio.
these leaders leading me.
That's
I
right.
have a very
That's right.
wonderful group, so, yeah.
Yes.
So I just wanted to make Okay, so now we'll get into the nitty gritty. Allison and I have a lot of really
The
good.
important part, the students.
Yes, yes. But thank you. I truly am blessed. I have so many good leaders to work with. Anyway, these are statistics. Looking here, I just want to primarily concentrate on the 23-24 school year. We're finally, after COVID, we're back to where we were. You can see here for
Wow.
the 23-24 school year, we've had over 40,000 students come to the clinic. 38,000 went back to class. So that 94%, Michelle, is it 90? That's the average they want us to.
You exceed the benchmark for nationally is 92%. So so you are exceeding the benchmark and making sure that kids have their needs met in the school nursing clinic and able to return back to class and back to learning. So that's again something to be very proud of. Yeah.
Wonderful.
So this breaks down again, total, this just compares it between last year and this year. I know you guys have your PowerPoint, and I know we're limited in time, so
No, it's okay.
please stop me if you have any questions. Okay, so this is astounding to me. We give so many medications here at school. We're so lucky that we're able to get these medications and treat these children. But if you can see in the 23-24 school year, we administered over 8,600 daily medications. Yes.
This predates our partnership with you all. So is this from the nurses that were stationed?
This is from the nurse, this is all
Yeah.
about the clinic nurses,
Yes.
not
This is
my,
not
not the
school-based
school-based
health.
health.
Yes,
Okay.
this is the
Yeah.
clinic, yes. And then Miss Allison will talk about the school-based health center.
Gotcha. Okay,
Yes,
I was a little
yeah.
confused. Thank you.
Okay, yep. Yeah. All right, so what is good about this also for our EMS calls, with Miss Allison and the many good things that she does with our school-based health center and the fact that we have stock medication and we have orders, we have really decreased the amount of EMS calls out of the 4 pre-K to 8s primarily. We used to have to call EMS all the time for a student with asthma, but now with stock albuterol, we treat them, they go back to class. So you can see that we've really decreased the amount of EMS calls for the year.
Wow.
So here you can see with the 23-24 school year, the majority is illness without a fever. I wanted to clarify injuries at school. It doesn't mean that they fell down and broke their arm. They could have got a paper cut. Some of them do break their arm, but majority of it could be a paper cut, an abrasion, different. It's not always serious. So that number looks high, but they're not always critically serious. Do you have any questions about the reason for clinic visits? Yep. Okay. So I think I want you to chime in on this with your school-based.
I'm gonna give them the whole thing.
Okay, all righty. So our asthma-related clinic visits, Allison has some wonderful things to update you, but this year we had 40 students present to the clinic with difficulty breathing, no documented medical concerns with asthma. 64 students had no rescue inhaler and no orders, and that's where we're so thankful for that stock medication, and 1 EMS call related to asthma. Here you can just take a look on your paper. You can see the numbers. These are the most chronic health conditions we deal with. Students with diabetes, asthma, life-threatening allergies, and seizure disorders. And you guys can see the numbers there. Diabetes management in school. We have, one of my buildings had 11 students with diabetes. So we have quite a few students with diabetes in our district. Well, 16 in the district, 11 of them were in one building.
Wow.
But as you can see, there was, just for routine blood glucose testing, we we treat the whole child. We do their blood sugar, we do calculate their carbohydrates, we have constant contact with the parents. So I'm really proud of what the good care we've given with our students with diabetes. Flu vaccines, you can see where we stand for the 23-24 school year.
I just want to point something out. It looks on this graph like we went down in our flu vaccines. This is flu vaccines outside of visits with the school-based health center. So if we gave the flu vaccine, it's not accounted in this number. So while it looks like we decreased, a lot of them were happening within holistic visits, not just given the vaccine.
Okay.
This is the breakdown for Jefferson. If you look at the last two, the far right, you can see the black is the clinic visits, the yellow is the back to class. Lincoln, 15,600 students, clinic visits. Yeah. And Miss Ashley was 96% back to class. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Great.
McGuffey, they're 91%. A lot of those kids are doing really well. And then Willard's at 93%. Warren G. Harding High School. So we actually didn't start our data collection until February 20th of last year. So this is 23-24 is actually a kind of a good picture of what actually went on throughout the whole school year versus the 22-23. So education, just education that I've done, and Allison has also done some of this education. Body-Wise is a puberty program for 5th graders. I did 9 classes in the 4 pre-K to 8s. Last year, Mr. Shiro and I went around to the buildings before school started, and I educated entire staff of emergency medication. And I did 1,850 teachers educating them on emergency medication and how to respond to that. Emergency management for chronic medical needs, 35, and then, medical administration. You can see all the various different numbers we have for education provided. School health has remained consistent with 85% of the customers stating they were satisfied or very satisfied with their services. Our likelihood to recommend is 77% for the 23-24 school year. So we didn't have anybody respond this year, so we're going to try to work on that for next year. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Allison.
And I'll be really quick. So I just want to say really quickly that I feel like all of the different awards that, Michelle and I have won are really a representation of the work and the partnership with your school. And it's the reason that we are so successful here at Warren. I've had great response and feedback and partnerships with the principals and all the admin staff in every building. And that is why we're successful here. It's nothing magic that we're doing beyond building relationships. These are the number of visits that you'll see by building. It kind of coincides with the number of kids at each school and then also the needs by the district. This is the asthma program that we wanted to talk about that is really super cool. So what we found last year is that we have all these kids, and our initial thought was we're going to go and we're going to send somebody to their home, we're going to teach the parents what they need to be doing, give them a check off of their meds list, we're going to make it easy for them, we're going to empower them. And what we found is that for some people that worked really well. And for others, there were just continued barriers that didn't allow them to give their child's medication on a routine basis at home for asthma. And so they were continually coming in for asthma attacks being sent out by EMS. Even after I saw them, gave multiple medications, we would still have to send them. And so we found out about a program at one of the conferences that other schools had trialed where they give the controller medication at the school, and they give it first thing when they come in and right before they leave for the day. And then if that's all they ever get and they don't get it on Saturday, Sunday, at least they've gotten 10 doses of that controller medication to keep their asthma at bay. And so we knew a couple of kids that were repeat offenders to me, and let's start with small, with those kids. So we started with 8, there were kids that moved and things like that, so we ended with 6, I believe. And those kids got their medication every day at school, one high schooler, one at Lincoln, or two at Lincoln, and the rest were at Jefferson. And so parents, all agreed to this. They knew about it. We kept them updated throughout the year. So what you're going to see here is for the school year prior to starting SBAT, there were, just in these 6 kids, there were 13 emergency room visits. After SBAT, there were 3. Clinic visits, so time out of the classroom. Before SBAT, there were 127. And this is the part that's really impactful. 100 less clinic visits.
Wow.
Just for 6 kids. So it's really incredible to see what can happen when we control our asthma. And we hear about it all the time. Asthma impacts learning, this, that, and the other. And like right here, you can see the numbers because those 100 visits to the clinic was missed class time, missed days of school, all of this.
Wow.
Even last year with me being in the school and taking care of these kids, we had to call EMS 6 times for them. And this year we did have to call EMS for 1 student 1 time. But again, huge improvement because every time you call EMS, it impacts the whole school and everyone. On our side of it, what we measure is the asthma control test. So we ask them a series of questions. How well is your asthma? How often are you waking up at night? How often are you coughing? How many days of school are you missing? And we see how well their asthma is controlled. And for us in the medical field, really, anything below, 19 to 20 is very poorly controlled. And so these 6 kids had an average asthma control test of 15. And after we put in SBAT, all of them improved, every single one, 100% to the controlled realm. So that was like a huge win for us as a medical team. Yeah, so here you'll see ED visits. We know this impacts the community, healthcare costs, everything, and those went way back down after we started our program. This real quick is just your student profile for knowing what your kids' needs are in Warren and how we can then meet those. One that you'll see here is visits with primary care physician, which since we started our partnership has went up 6%. This is what we talked about. It's a partnership with the ODH where we take 10 clinical days and we measure the minute that they come into my visit with me to the minute that they go back to their classroom. And did they go home or not? So in those 10 days, we saw 75 students. 61 of them were sent back to class. That saved an average instruction time per student of 3 hours and 21 minutes. A total classroom instruction over the 10 days was 204 hours and 47 minutes. Just representing that how impactful this is to meet kids where they are, because then mom's not keeping them home for the whole entire school day to take them for that ear pain, or keeping them home. Even the ones that get sent home, they were there for a portion of the day. They're going home with a treatment plan, and that medication, in some cases, picked up the medication and taken to the home for them. So it's really decreasing all their barriers. This is in that 10 days what we saw kids for. I'll be honest, I feel like strep throat should be well examined for what I normally see, but that week there was a lot of kids with strep throat. But normally we do mostly, I would say, well exams. Just want to touch real quick. I know my youth advisory council came and presented to you in December. These kids we learned throughout the year was a learning experience for me too. But we tried to really just teach them to have a voice within their system. What do your kids need? One of the cool things that we did is they went through about 100 different vaping posters, and we said, what catches your eye that you want to look at, that you're not rolling your eyes at? What means something to you? And how, what do you want? And so then we narrowed it down and then we put those up. And it was interesting because they picked ones that said things like, would you want your sister to do this with a girl and her sister? And those are the ones that they said, that actually meant something to me. And so, we can think that something's great, but if it was teaching them that you get a say in, improving the health of your peers. I'll try to say real quick what I think the last couple slides are. We also did education, adolescent health education for the entire freshman class. We had a great school year. We saw a ton of kids. There's a couple really impactful success stories that hopefully we'll get to share at some point that I can honestly say were really life-changing, and I was just an honor to get to be a piece of that. I know one particular student, when they say it takes a village, Miss Ulisny helped me. She got a liaison to help. We got the community health worker to help. A liaison at a different school helped call a manager of an apartment complex. The downtown Warren office helped us. They were involved with Mahoning Valley. There were probably over 100 people actually involved in this child's care, but his what he found out that he had is serious, and the outcome is going to be better because he knows about it and can treat it. And so it really did change his life, but it took every person, and I'll shout out Dr. Ulisny, because when I come to her and say, like, I have this need, there's like never any questions asked. She's like, okay, so what do you need from me? And that partnership just represents all the numbers and success you see here. I spent over 24 hours with these kids this year. They were awesome. Building relationships again was honestly probably more important than anything that I could show you in a project. So thank you for letting us be here. It's my honor and privilege to get to be part of your school district.
Yay.
So a huge shout out, congratulations on the Grit Awards. That's awesome. I know, I can't think of any better group of individuals to work with to earn such an award. And, there's a very strong commitment to the work we're doing. The work right now is very critical. Again, I can't speak publicly, nor can Allison, about the individual healthcare situations of students, but having been in the meetings, Mr. Capers, Janice, we know some very, very serious life-threatening experiences that have been averted for children here in the city of Warren because of the quality of care and the difference, and that is truly amazing.
Yes.
We started this years ago with an expectation of where we're going to go. I say this every year, I think, at our annual meeting. Michelle, I put a challenge and you thought, I was out of my mind as far as what I wanted to see here. And over the years, healthcare shifted on what happened with schools. And so did the opportunities and the funding, including the fact that we're one of the model, if not the model, in our grant that originated with the governor's office a couple years ago, being awarded over $300,000 for next year to continue the work because it is recognized, it is noticed, it is documented, it is real, and it's important. As I believe you said, if I heard you correctly, that the number of students that are being tied to a primary care physician has increased, despite the fact that pediatricians in the community may not have a good feel of this because they think we're trying to steal the students from their rosters. Actually, what we're trying to do is connect children to primary care physicians. No one in this room cares who they go to.
Right.
We just want them to go to someone.
Absolutely.
And the number of children that we have in the district, I mean, there was at least one case this year of a child that has not been seen since birth.
I think we had over 8 kids this year who either hadn't been seen in over 10 years or never since birth. So they can be all around you, but if you're not meeting them where they're at, they're still not getting to you.
Yeah.
And that's the piece of why we need to connect them to the care that is critical to their health, safety, and well-being and their ability to be successful. And it's true, it's real, and thank you guys very much for being a part of this journey. And more information will be forthcoming regarding the partnership of Akron Children's Hospital as time moves on.
Yes.
Okay.
We'll just say that and leave it at the door, correct?
I just have one thing. In our policy meeting this evening, we talked about the partnership with you guys concerning stock acetaminophen and ibuprofen to be administered across the district. Do I want to say that, or just in the high school?
It's for 12 and up.
For
Okay.
12 years old and up?
Yes,
Okay.
it's for 12 and up. And we have very strict criteria also as to when we can give it and when we can't. But yeah.
And I shared the criteria with the Board of Education Policy Committee meeting today. And so at this time, I believe we're having a very brief discussion that with parental permission and all of the information that Akron Children has set
Yes.
forth as far as their expectations with
Yes.
families and with parental permission and within their guidelines, we are not able to create a board policy because
Right.
Akron Children's employees are not our
Right.
employees.
Right.
So we really can't policy their work. But without any objection from the Board of Education, it'll be noted in the minutes of tonight's meeting that Akron Children's Hospital will be able to proceed with parental permission for acetaminophen and ibuprofen over-the-counter distribution according to their policies and protocols and with parental permission.
And with parental permission.
And with school care, we'll be able to tell you how many kids we sent back to class versus going home with a headache.
Very good.
Okay?
Very good.
So any questions on that, since we can't make it a policy, but it'll be part of the minutes of tonight's meeting?
Do any of the board members have any concerns about that or comments? If you're okay with it? We'll come to a consensus?
Yes.
You've arrived at a consensus that yes?
And the school care contract will be on a future agenda for your.
Okay.
Okay, very good.
Thank you guys very much for all you do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And the third superintendent's report for this evening is something that we never knew how great it was going to be for children
Yeah.
in Warren City Schools. When the thought came out about creating an esports lab, we presented the information to the Board of Education with great excitement on how we could have another contact point to engage children in something that's very important to them. Believe me, it is. In looking at it, when we first put this out at the high school, Mr. Nicholson said, we're going to have cuts in this program. We had 140 students express interest in esports. So with the support of all the work that has been done and put into it, we created a temporary lab at the high school by the library, and we were going to move that lab down into the reallocated space at the Student Recreation Wellness Center. But because the team has done so well and has such great popularity and such great interest, we have now created a new lab that's in process, so we will have both a JV and a varsity esports team. And at this time, I'd like to welcome Mr. Nicholson, our advisors, to come and tell us a little bit about their success with esports in Warren City Schools.
Once again, I think you've heard this story before. Mrs. Hartzell approached me about 2 years ago, came to my office, and I'm like, oh boy, I'm in trouble. That was good. Mrs. Hartzell said, Bill, I want you to start up an esports team. I want you to be in charge of it. We want to get this going. And one of the things I remember saying is, I barely play Donkey Kong and Pac-Man. I'm not a gamer. My age group usually isn't. So did some research, started, what's this all about? What's it consist of? And just like anything else, you learn a little bit about it and you start, making plans. The best thing that happened was I posted a job posting for an esports advisor. And I hit a home run with this guy. This guy here, Kevin Console, he's so into it, it's unbelievable. His energy, his love for gaming, he enjoys being with the kids. And we added Mr. Penisic, what's his name on? Mr. Adler. So we went from, I think it was one initial advisor. He approached me and said, Bill, I need some more help. We got you on. We got a third person. And 145 kids, had cuts. School's out, these guys run down. Like football players, they'll work their way to the varsity house in 20 minutes. These gamers, they'll get to the lab, and they fire up, and they don't waste time. They are efficient, and they want a game. And it's been a joy working with these guys. You see another side of it that they're so motivated, self-motivated. So, I said we're going to bring the advisors in and have a talk. I think we talked to them about a year ago, and a little over a year. One of the things we talked about was winning a state championship within 2 years, I think. And I got news for you. He's going to do a little recap of the season. And don't be shocked if we win something real soon. So, Kevin, the floor is yours.
Good evening. I'm Kevin. I am a computer tech at Jefferson. And more importantly for tonight, I am the Harvard Esports head coach. So first off, I'd like to say thank you for all your guys' support, especially to the board members, Mr. Shiro, Mrs. Ulisny, and obviously Mr. Nicholson. Very few esports programs in Ohio have the full support like I do from everyone. So I'm beyond blessed for that. I mean, none of this would be possible without any of you guys. Most esports programs don't even have the support from the athletic director, let alone Board of Education, superintendent, associate superintendents, and especially the campus leaders. So I'm most thankful for that, and none of it could have been possible without you guys. So that being said, this was our first year in esports. We entered what's called the Esports Ohio League. It is a nonprofit organization created by teachers for students. There's over 30 members that are all volunteers currently. I actually might be one of the new appointees, we'll see this summer. So the way it works is we have 2 seasons every year. There's one in the fall, one in the spring. The fall season is all online, and it's essentially a preparation for the spring season, which the regular season is online, but they do have state championships and regionals that are held at different universities throughout Ohio. We're in the northeastern region, and this year our regionals were in Baldwin Wallace University. The state championships, we unfortunately didn't make it this year, but we'll get that. The state championships are held at the University of Akron. And both staffs were amazing. Even though we didn't have any kids attend, I attended the state championships this year. It was fantastic, just an experience to actually be there and watch other schools compete. Ironically, one of the schools that we lost to actually ended up winning the state championship, so that made me feel a little bit better about myself. But, so the way the season starts, fall starts in September. We go until December. They do have 1 week for online playoffs in December for the kids. And then in January, the spring season starts, and that goes all the way until April if you make it to the state championships. Each season is around 7 weeks long. Like I said, in the fall, we do have 1 week for playoff. In the spring, they have almost a full month for playoffs. They have 1 week that's online only, and then the following week is regionals. Like I said, ours was held at Baldwin-Wallace University. And then we have about 2 weeks off to prepare for state championships at University of Akron. So altogether this year, we played 5 different games. We played Overwatch, Rocket League, Valorant, Super Smash Brothers, and Fortnite. Fortnite's a big one for the kids, and it's actually one of our better games. All in all, at the beginning of the season, we had 53 kids sign up. We did have to make cuts this year, unfortunately. We cut it down to right around 42 kids ended up making it in the fall. Due to unfortunate circumstances with behavior and grades, we did end up finishing with 35 kids in our program. In total, we had 5 teams this year. We had 1 Overwatch team, 1 Rocket League team, 1 Super Smash team, and also 2 Fortnite teams. Our Overwatch team actually finished the regular season as the #1 seed in the state of Ohio. They finished the season undefeated, 7-0. Our Rocket League team finished the 16th seed in the state of Ohio, 3rd in their division. They finished 5-2. Our varsity Fortnite finished regular season in 12th in state. JV Fortnite finished 15th in state. And Super Smash, unfortunately, did not make playoffs this year, but they finished 4-3 in their record, and they were actually 1 game away from the playoffs. So everybody did really good. Overwatch and Rocket League both made it to regionals. We took our kids to Baldwin-Wallace. Our Overwatch team actually won against Salem Quakers, and we moved on. We were 1 game away from actually attending the state championships with them, but they finished overall 16th in the state out of 135 teams. Rocket League also made it to regionals. Rocket League unfortunately lost in the first round to Avon Lake, but Avon Lake actually ended up winning the state championship, so I'm not too disappointed losing to the state champions. At least, state champions were in Northeastern Ohio, so that's not too bad. Rocket League ended up finishing 32nd in the state out of 160 teams. And then our Fortnite, varsity Fortnite, ended up finishing 6th. They did make it to the state championships this year. They finished 6th in all the state out of over 180 teams. Our JV team ended up finishing 12th out of about 135 teams. So overall, 4 out of 5 teams made the playoffs, and this is our first year ever, my first year as a coach. So I think that's pretty successful, and I think as we go on and add more kids into the program, gain more talent, and obviously we branded everything. Kids know about us nowadays. So I think next year I plan on us hopefully at least having 2 teams make it to the championships. That being said, this year as far as fundraising go, we pretty much fundraised everything except for our labs. Thank you for giving us our labs, by the way.
You're welcome.
But we fundraised for our t-shirts, we fundraised for new equipment, the lab, and just a few fun things. We do still have fun. I know a lot of people hear gaming and they think, oh, that's just all fun. It's actually difficult to sit there and play the same exact game over and over and over for hours on it. Again, it is gaming, I do understand, but it is difficult for these kids. So we do still have to break it up and have some fun.
A little rock band.
Exactly. Mrs. Ulisny actually joined us. We were playing Guitar Hero and Rock Band one day. We had fun Fridays, so we still try and have fun, keep interest with the kids. This year we raised $1,800 from sponsors alone, and we raised $1,600 from our own fundraiser for a grand total of right around $3,500 on team raise.
Beautiful.
We have a few local sponsors. Nova Coffee Company in downtown Warren, Howard Hanna, and a new company, Greenboard IT. They actually do our recycling district for all of our computers and anything technological. We also have a couple other sponsors, Bytespeed. Bytespeed actually provided us with our computers as well as our administrators' computers. And AIM Lab was another sponsor. They actually are a massive company across the entire nation as far as professional esports goes. And Chris Benezich, I wish he was here today, but he actually had a friend that worked for AIM Lab, and they donated a little over $1,000, maybe $2,000 worth of gear and about $650 cash for our program. So without our sponsors, we definitely couldn't do it. As far as where the money went, as you can see, we designed our own team jerseys. We have our own online store. Every single kid got one of these paid for by their fundraisers. They got to customize it. They got their names on the back, with their name tags.
Okay.
By the way, these are all available on our online store.
A little plug. Right.
Exactly. We bought several new. When we first started out, we weren't exactly sure what the needs of the lab were going to be. So throughout the year with our fundraised money, we also bought new equipment for the students. No matter what the kids get to take home the jerseys, they will get one every single year. So this will be their take-home gift for being in esports and their remembrance. We currently have $1,800 in our bank for next year, which is actually more than enough to pay for the jerseys next year. We spent right around $1,500 this year in jerseys. Again, all fundraised by our kids and our sponsors. So, our plans for next year. For one, we plan on adding 2 more games, Apex Legends and chess, actually. A lot of students have showed interest in joining the chess team, and I actually think one of our students could be a Grand Master in chess eventually. That would be very impressive. Currently this year, like I said, we ended with 35 students. I'm hoping next year we'll be able to have up to 62 students. As Mr. Shiro said, we are adding a second lab. So more labs, more computers, that's more space for practicing. This year, because we only had 1 lab, we were only able to practice 2 days a week. We had to split up time between different games and different students playing. Next year, I'm hoping we can move practice to at least 3 or 4 days a week. And again, Fridays are our fun days. We try and play a little bit of guitar here and stuff on Fridays, have fun with the kids. But overall, our year ended, my proudest moment was we had 2 seniors that actually were offered scholarships to play esports in college.
Beautiful.
One of our students was offered, one of our students actually was offered a scholarship by both Akron and Kent State. He ended up accepting the scholarship and he will be playing in Kent State main campus. Donovan Boyd is his name. I don't know if you guys know him, but he's the one that accepted the offer. The other student that was offered actually ended up being employed by us, and he's actually working with our IT department now, Dobry DuPont. So overall, I think for being our first season ever, I think we did pretty darn good. Our students are loving it. I've developed sometimes a little too intense relationships with the kids. They want to tell me everything about their lives, and it can be a little difficult sometimes, but I have a lot of really good kids. But that's all I have for you guys. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Thank you. No, just congratulations.
Great job.
Excellent job. Absolutely. We're glad we finally got to meet you. Right. Because leading up to this, yes, and leading up to this, we knew you existed and you had so much energy about this.
So I want to thank you for all of your good work in leading this initiative. You had to start from the ground up and build something. I hope you continue to do that. But I do have a question. With so many other activities, there is a budget associated with other activities.
Yes.
Is there any chance that Esports can, you could find it you can take it out of the superintendent's office because I don't spend mine.
Yeah, we will.
When you have a program like this that's impacting so many of our kids and making opportunities for them to actually go to the next level and go to college, that's a scholarship for first year.
You notice I moved away before I suggested this?
That only makes sense.
If Karen says yes, we'll say yes also.
I go by your direction.
Karen.
I mean, we don't want it to be the only
Yes.
Right.
Correct.
sponsored experience.
That's equity.
And we've been pilot and trying to get the feel for it from the
Sure.
supplemental all the way to what we're doing. And again, there was a huge commitment by the board for the equipment and to get things going. But since we do see the success with it,
I think,
love it.
I think we have a consensus to ask Karen, can you find some money?
Will you guys for us, please?
Thank you.
well, with that great news, that concludes the superintendent's report for this evening. The other good news.
Yay, you did good,
Very good.
very good.
Thank you so much. Okay, on to agenda item number 8, Board of Education Committee Reports, Athletics.
We have an athletic council meeting this Thursday, 5:15, it'll be in the superintendent's conference room.
Correct.
And the media information has been sent out by LaToya in the treasurer's office with the change in location.
All right, thank you. The Finance Advisory?
Nothing at this time, but we will be having our treasurer will be scheduling a meeting the next month or two with us for a financial advisory meeting, and we look forward to that. But at this time, no.
Okay, thank you. Board Policies and Guidelines?
Patrick is going
Yeah.
to.
Oh, just one thing quickly, that we met with the board committee met with Mr. Shiro earlier today, and a couple of things, we talked about multiple things. One of the main things I want to relay to my fellow board members is that we discussed a little bit about the Ohio cell phones in schools model policy that the great governor of this state put out. And I just want to recommend to my fellow board members that we need to probably, I would strongly recommend we have almost a board workshop amongst the 5 of us to discuss and come up with some things to help develop this board policy. And also, we're going to look for input from our administrators and our students as well. And we'll put it all together and come up with a reasonable yet competent policy, I think, that will be good for all at Warren City Schools. And I just want to recommend to my fellow board members that we do come together, and probably a board workshop might be a good idea to help develop the policy.
Yeah, I think that's a very good idea. So if you want to circle back and we'll look at a date.
Yes.
I know
can do
it's
that.
summer and everybody, I don't know if people are on vacation or whatever, but let's try and find a date that's, cohesive for all of us, and we can do that.
Sounds good.
Preferably in the evening, because we all work, so, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Very good, thank you. Legislative liaison, Dr. Alls, do you have anything? Okay, I don't have anything this is kind of from the legislative side, but today there was an article in the newspaper about funding from the General Assembly. And it was supposed to be, for community projects and things of that nature, leftover COVID dollars, and much to my disappointment, $1.4 million is going to private schools. Not going to call those out. And again, it's public dollars going earmarked and subsidizing private schools. I am sure that, there are other public schools in Trumbull County, smaller districts that have renovation needs, things of that nature. Public dollars should be earmarked for public education. And that is why we're sitting up here, because we support public education. So I just wanted to make that statement. It's very disappointing. And I just hope that in the future, the people that represent us in Columbus would begin to think a little bit differently. They're already taking so much money from the districts with the voucher system and upping, the threshold for those that qualify for that. I myself, personally, I am a product of public school, parochial school, and back to public school. And granted, that was a long time ago, but private school is a choice. Public school is, it is a right to have a public education. So if you're, if you want to support, if you want your children to go to private school, you make that decision and you pay for it. But unfortunately, we're in a time now where a lot of public dollars are supporting and holding up private schools. So just continue, my colleagues, to be, I know, just a moment, just continue to be, champions of public education. Again, that's why we run for office. That is why we sit up here. We represent every student, regardless.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, and Mr. Shiver, you may go now.
I would just like, if you didn't read the article, I'd like to draw attention to former public educator Sandra O'Brien in the Senate, who ensured that $1 million goes to Holy Trinity Orthodox here in Warren. $300,000 goes to John F. Kennedy, and I believe $100,000 goes to Victory Christian in Vienna. $1.4 million, if you would like to send your thank you note, that would go to former public educator Sandra O'Brien, who is the representative for Trumbull County.
Thank you.
We should do that.
Yeah, it was very interesting. The largest amount went to the schools serving the least number of people. And American society is built on the hallmark of free education for the public,
Yes.
of educating the masses. And to see our state legislature thank you.
And,
Shameful.
I'll also add, in the business world, there's a term ROI, return on investment. $1 million to a small school when you could have impacted so many more students.
Who incidentally got an increase this year because of the voucher system.
Yes.
And $1 million is the equivalent thereabout, give or take, $100,000 or $200,000 to what we get from the state for our preschool program that educates 330 children for the year. That's the equivalent, that's what you're talking about, 330 preschool children, and again, we offset that with Title I funding and other balances, what you're talking about. We get that amount of money from the state annually to offset the cost of preschool education for 330 children.
And how many other, again, public school partners in Trumbull County that we know?
None of them were included
Districts
in
that
the
could
press
have
release.
benefited from those dollars.
Mahoning Valley got one.
No, yeah.
And our representative comes from public school.
That's
Public
correct.
school educator.
Just up Route 11, I believe is.
Like you say, shameful.
Okay, thank you. TCTC.
I just want to take the opportunity to say to our administrators who attended TCTC graduation, thank you guys for coming. That's it.
A couple of us were late because athletic council ran long.
That's okay.
It's embarrassing when you're walking in and you're hearing your name announced. I just want to say that for the record.
As long as you wave. Did you wave?
He stood.
Okay. All right, do we have anything under old business? Anything under new business? And was there anyone signed in for public participation? No. Okay. So we will move on then. On page 3, agenda item 1, Dr. Alls, please.
Treasurer's recommendations. It is recommended the resolution listed below regarding the May 2024 board minutes be approved as submitted.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Dr. Alls?
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos?
Yes, and the motion carries. On page 4, item 2, Mr. Flanagan, please.
Monthly financial statement. It is recommended the resolution listed below regarding the May 2024 financial statement and short-term investments made by the treasurer during May 2024, Exhibit A, pages 36 through 37, be approved as submitted.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Dr. Alls?
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos?
Yes, and the motion carries. On page 6, item 3, Mrs. Patterson, please.
The revised budget and purpose statements. It is recommended the resolution listed below, establishing 2023-2024 co-curricular revised budget and purpose statements be approved as submitted.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Dr. Alls?
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos?
Yes, and the motion carries. On page 7, item 4, And that is going to be Mr. Walker, please.
Revised appropriation budget. It is recommended the resolution listed below for revised appropriation budget, A through E, be approved as submitted.
Okay, call the roll, please.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Dr. Alls?
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
And Mrs. Lamperos?
Yes, and the motion carries. On page 8, item 1, Dr. Alls, please.
Superintendent's recommendations, 2024-2025 school calendar for teachers and students amendment. It is recommended the resolution listed below to amend the 2024-2025 school year calendar approved at the regular board meeting held on December 19, 2023. Motion number 12-2023-249 be approved as submitted.
Second.
Okay, and that's for the additional waiver day, Wednesday, October 2nd, 2024. All right, and call the roll.
Dr. Alls?
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos?
Yes, and the motion carries. On page 9, item 2, Mr. Flanagan, please.
Agreements, contracts, and/or leases. It is recommended the resolution listed below, entering into agreements, contracts, and/or leases, A through G, be approved as submitted.
Second.
Okay, call the roll, please.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Dr. Alls? Yes. Mrs. Lamperos?
Yes, and the motion carries. On page 12, item 3, Mrs. Patterson, please.
Recognition to furnish insurance for property, vehicle fleet, general liability, school leaders' professional liability, boiler, crime, flood, and earthquake, and excess liability for school year 2024-2025. It is recommended the resolution listed below to recognize the quote received to furnish insurance for property, vehicle fleet, general liability, school leaders' professional liability, boiler, crime, flood, and earthquake, and excess liability for school year 2024-2025 be approved as submitted.
Second.
Okay, call the roll, please.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Dr. Alls?
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos?
Yes, and the motion carries. On page 13, item 4, Mr. Walker, please.
Thank you. Awarding the contract for furnishing insurance for property, vehicle fleet, general liability, school leaders' professional liability, boiler, crime, flood, and earthquake, and excessive liability for the school year 2024-2025. It is recommended the resolution listed below to award the contract for furnishing insurance for property, vehicle fleet, general liability, school leaders' professional liability, boiler, crime, flood, and earthquake, and excessive liability for school year 2024-2025 be approved as submitted.
Okay, call the roll, please.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Dr. Alls?
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos?
Yes, and the motion carries. On page 14, item 5, Dr. Alls, please.
Ohio Department of Education certification for Ohio Teachers Evaluation System and Ohio Principal Evaluation System. It is recommended the resolution listed below regarding the Ohio Department of Education certification for credentialed Ohio Teachers Evaluation System and Ohio Principals Evaluation Evaluators be approved as submitted.
Second.
Okay, call the roll, please.
Dr. Alls?
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos?
Yes, and the motion carries. On page 15, item 6, Mr. Flanagan, please.
Tuition reimbursement. It is recommended the resolution listed below for tuition reimbursement be approved as submitted.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Dr. Alls?
Yes.
And Mrs. Lamperos?
Yes, and the motion carries. On page 16, item 7, Mrs. Patterson, please.
Acceptance of gifts. It is recommended the resolution listed below regarding acceptance of gifts be approved as submitted. benefactor is Trumbull County Veterans Service Commission, and it is going to the Warren G. Harding Pantry with a monetary donation valued at $1,000. Thank you for your kindness toward our district.
Yes. Thank you. And call the roll, please.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
Dr. Rawls? Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos?
Yes, and the motion carries. On page 17, item 8, Mr. Walker, please.
Thank you. Appointment, certified certificated administrators, less than 52-week, salary table C, supplement 2024-2025 school year. Whereas the superintendent of the Warren City School District, Trumbull County, has recommended the administrators listed below be designated as listed. This is a supplemental duty in addition to their current administrative assignment for the 2024-2025 school year. The administrators listed below have been notified of the additional duty assignment and that this supplemental contract shall state that the Board of Education gives notice of non-reemployment for the ensuing school year.
Second.
Thank you. And call the roll, please.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
Dr. Rawls? Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos?
Yes, and the motion carries. On page 18, item 9, Dr. Rawls, please.
Personnel recommendations. It is recommended the resolution listed below regarding personnel items A through O be approved as submitted.
Second.
Thank you. That will take you through to page 33. We do have a classified retirement on page 27. Well, if I can get my page there. Robert Lewis, our carpenter, master mechanic, we just want to thank him for his years of service to the district. And please, enjoy the retirement. And then also on page 29, we have a military leave to recognize as well. Again, my fingers are not working today. Kyle Huey, and just want to thank him for his service to our country. Give me a minute to get through. Okay, call the roll, please.
Dr. Rawls?
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos?
Yes, and the motion carries. Okay, under board recommendations, so we didn't have anybody sign up for public participation.
That's correct.
So at this time, I will entertain a motion to move into executive session under the provisions of Ohio Revised Code 121.22. The Warren City Board of Education recessed to executive session at 7:22 p.m. to discuss A, consideration of employment of public employees, C, conference with an attorney involving pending legal action, D, consideration of the purchase of property for public purposes or sale of property at competitive bidding, and F, matters required to be kept confidential by state and federal law.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Call the roll.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
Wait a second.
That's fine.
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay, sorry. Dr. Rawls?
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
And Mrs. Lamperos?
Yes, thank you. There will be no further action after this executive session, so everyone else can leave. We have to stay. Thank you for coming out, and enjoy your evening.